Good afternoon, everybody. Joining me right now is Columbus City Council President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown. Over the weekend, she voiced some frustrations about a flight path by the Columbus Division of Police. Thank you for joining us, Councilwoman Brown. Tell us a little bit about the frustration that you had and how this all came about this weekend over this flight path that is getting a lot of attention now.
Yeah, I did. I voiced some frustration when I saw this on Saturday morning, and the reason I did is because the it's problematic for a few reasons that a pilot chose to basically skywrite in its flight path. The overhead presence of the helicopter hovering over a neighborhood and taking that time to draw out CPD falsely signaled to residents below that there was danger in their neighborhood at a time of night that's pretty disconcerting. This wasn't in the middle of the day. I don't think any of us welcome helicopter noise at any point, but this was 1 in the morning. And I really believe that there should have been some smarter decision making taking place to follow protocol and to follow the mission of the helicopter unit. I was also frustrated because last summer I proposed capping our helicopter fleet at 4, basically taking it down by 1 unit. And I was told over and over by multiple people within the division and the fleet itself how important every mile that they fly is. So it felt like it didn't really mesh with what I was told last summer, and my measure ultimately didn't pass.
Yes, CPD did respond to this, say that they would be looking into the flight path. And to quote them, the appearance that officers were not operating within the mission of the aviation section is not acceptable. How do you feel about their statement? And are you satisfied with what they had to say and potentially the investigation that is going to come out of this?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with their statement. I think that it makes a lot of sense for them to do the review that they say they're going to do. Because ultimately, every part on a helicopter is flight mile capped by the FAA. So this flight kind of frittered away at a portion of the useful life at taxpayers' expense, essentially. Both pilots in the helicopter know that policy directs them to fly over major roadways only when not on runs. And that's especially relevant because a central argument of those in opposition to my measure last summer was that the changes I was proposing ought to be achieved through departmental policy, not code. And this instance is an example of why policy just doesn't always do the job. And there is a time and place for code changes. So, what I hope is that not only will they do the things they've committed to in that statement to review what happened, but also come to the table to talk about the necessary code changes.
We have heard from a Columbus City spokesperson that they would be discussing this tonight at City Council. Will you be joining in on those conversations, and what questions do you hope that will be answered?
Absolutely. I will be there tonight on the council meeting. Look, we have a lot of serious issues facing our city. Just this weekend, we hit an all-time high again in our homicide numbers, and people need the city to stand with them, need our community to stand with them to keep people safe across Columbus. So we need to focus on that serious work, and I'm interested in those solutions as well as how we safeguard dollars. I just have to add that the reason I proposed decreasing our helicopter fleet was in part because we heard from residents that they felt helicopters were out too often and hovering over their neighborhoods too often. And if we can save dollars on those helicopters and reinvest them in community-based safety strategies, I think we will be a safer city for that.
I obviously anecdotally, of course, you can see if you have a Nextdoor app, if you're in a community Facebook group, every single time those helicopters do fly over, no matter what time of day or night it is, people are saying, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And we've seen a little bit of that response to your tweet. It really did take off. What is some of the things from the community that you have been hearing about this, good or bad?
I mean, there was, social media is a beast of its
Of course.
own. And there was a light on Saturday with folks' opinions on this. all over the place. But most of Columbus doesn't live on Twitter. Most of Columbus is going about their lives. And so I'm really interested in how we can create a policy that feels common sense to most people most of the time. And to some degree, I don't so much care what people think on Twitter, as long as folks at 1 a.m. when they're sleeping in their beds are not disturbed by the sound of helicopters simply for a joyride.